Sam,
Hi.
how are you?
Yeah, sorry if there was a delay there. Sorry.
No, no, I was late. I just got on, so I was running a little bit late. I was having lunch with my girlfriend. I'm like, look at the fucking time, man. I'm missing Sam. It's late there. It's the middle of the night. The middle of the night in London, which it isn't, of course.
Yeah, it's okay. Just
This
seven
might
at
be a little
seven.
better. I'm gonna put my headphones on. You have yours on. It might. I noticed because I get all these sounds on my computer that I can hear, and when I'm using this stuff, well, whatever. It's just better. I find what because we're recording that. You're gonna put this on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
Conceivably,
if that's okay with you.
it's fine with me. Yeah. So
Oh, cool.
this might be a little better. I don't like the look of the headphones, but it's a better. We won't get beeps and
Yeah,
stuff, or at
I
least we should get less of them.
I think people do it in different ways. Like
Yeah.
some people don't even have the microphone, but I do.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It looks good. I know we're using my microphone here on the computer, but hopefully it suffices and it'll be quiet. I do live on a busy Brooklyn avenue, Wythe Avenue in Brooklyn, but hopefully it doesn't disturb us.
Should be fine.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, nice to meet you, Greg.
such a pleasure. Yes, Sam. So I'll premise this by saying you're recording. You put it together any way you want to, but I'll premise this by just you seem like an understated guy, so you probably weren't going to ask the question, but I just want to tell you how we discovered you. Um, I I'm not someone who does a lot of searching our name, whether it's in YouTube or Google or whatever it might be, just because I'm always afraid of what I'm going to find.
Mm.
That's my nature. But there's a lot of people in the sort of family of Drop 19s now, and I think it was Steve's wife, in fact, who was Googling, what maybe one of our singles that came out and whatever and on YouTube, and she found you and she sent it to Steve, and Steve sent I think it was your Scapa Flow. Well, was it? Did you review Scott?
I
Yes, you did.
I did a review, yes, and
Okay,
the price is high as well.
and the price was high. So okay, so I'm remembering it right. When you did the Scapa Flow review, that's what we saw, and I think Steve said to me in the middle of the night, said you got to see this guy talking about our music. It just was. You're in the ride shirt, right?
Yeah.
You're in a ride shirt, and we just enjoyed it thoroughly. And forgive us for not maybe commenting on the. It's just not our nature to do that, but or
Yeah,
at
that's
least I'm always
fine.
very, but I or endorsing it or posting it. It's I don't know why we're very peculiar about that, but we really enjoyed it, and so much so that when I think The Price is High came out, or when a Hitch,
Yeah,
it might have been a Hitch that it was the first one.
I did a review for Hitch as well.
Okay, whatever. We definitely sought that out, and we're like, "Oh, I hope Sam does one for. I don't think I knew your name was Sam at that point, but I said, I hope that guy does one. Hope that English guy does one for that because we really enjoy hearing it. And I don't want that. I'm saying this. I want to premise this by saying I don't want this to color your review. Not that I think it would that we're watching, but we're very flattered that you cared enough to talk about the music and well, listen to the music first, and then
Yeah,
to have something to say about it and to
yeah,
actually tell people about it. So
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
There. Oh my gosh.
no, not a problem at all.
Old
I,
school.
I
Old
really
school.
did.
Yes.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be on the list to talk about.
Sure.
But
I-
yeah, thank you
I'm all
for
yours.
finding the channel, and yeah, I think Steve got hold of me on the Instagram
Right.
saying about you were big followers, and this is how this meeting came to be.
Yes.
So yeah, awesome. And so I've got a list of questions with me
Great.
to, I think that would make it easier. So my first one, it really is going back to the start, the origins of Drop 19s, and what was the vision for Drop 19s when you were starting out?
The vision. Um, I just think, I think before even it was Drop 19s, I had wanted it. I'd wanted to be in music in some fashion or another. I mean, I grew up a big fan of music in high school, like, geez, most young men and women do, or at least a lot do. I was a swimmer. So I was, until I think sophomore year in high school, which is about 16 years old. And I remember trading the chlorine and the morning practices for a guitar, because I just wanted to do music. And so from early on, there was going to be some kind of iteration of it. I think for me, that was my ambition. And Drop 19s, it's just when it started getting serious, really. I mean, I was always serious about it, even from early on, in high school, but um, I don't think any of it was really that good. And so I think Drop 19s, we started calling it that right about the time where I felt like this could actually be, something that be worthy of a release. And that really is the beginning of those, what we call demos, but really they're unreleased songs now, because they never got recorded in a formal studio. And we are releasing those next year, by the way.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So
I was going to get to that. I was going to talk about
yeah,
Mayfield was later in my list
right.
of questions.
But it relates to your first question, because that was the beginning of Drop 19s. I mean, that was the origin of it. I think that's the first time we started calling it Drop 19s, and with that, what we call demo. There were two demos. It was a demo 1 and demo 2. People call it, I think, on YouTube and wherever you can hear that stuff, they call it, I think, the Mayfield demos. And then I don't
Yeah.
think they even have a name for the second one, but the second one has the songs Day Mom, Song for JJ, Back in Our Old Bed, Back in Our Old Bed, and Soapland. So I'm actually I really love the second one a lot. And we were able to find those tapes, and the original mixes, and do some remastering to those. So that was, which is a real delight, because the degree to which those songs have been heard out there by people interested is always been on YouTube. And the way that they would have heard that, the way that they would have uploaded those originally, would have been from these cassettes, which are just sort of poor quality, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea of us being able to kind of present it in a way that makes us more comfortable is something we're looking forward to.
Super interesting stuff. I never actually knew it was separated into two different EPs. I just thought it was one
Yeah.
continuous one. So that's very
Yeah.
interesting.
The reason for that was that the first EP, or demo cassette, was it ended up in the British press, strangely. I mean, we had sent it to record companies, 4AD, Creation, Dedicated.
Yeah.
These were the labels at the time. And a girl named Colleen Maloney she subsequently went on to work at 4AD, but I think at the time she was at Dedicated. She's without us asking, she sent them to the press. She sent them to Paul Lester, or whoever those guys were at Melody Maker and Enemy, Simon Reynolds, I think. And those papers picked it up, and Melody Maker made, I think, the first demo single of the week, which is, to your younger viewers here and stuff, like, I mean, they didn't review demos, back then. I mean, this was a really, in fact, I think they even made up a record label name under the thing, because it was,
Wow.
because I don't think they were allowed to just be like, oh, we're reviewing a demo,
Yeah. Wow.
let alone awarding it like single of the week. So this caused she sent this to the press, and it caused this whole thing. And what I recall is just getting a phone call from, we'd already had a lawyer, because those labels were interested in signing us. Not every single one of them, but there are a few of them were, throwing around offers. And we he called us. He said, "You're single of the week in Melody Maker." And I said, "Kaz, what are you talking?" His name is Kaz Gill. I said, "What the hell are you talking about? We don't have a record. I mean, we're not signed." And he said, "Yeah." So that's how that happened. And while the labels were kind of like, while we were working out, deciding who to sign to, we're just kind of being dormant, which at that time was not really our style. We were very in a creative place in our life, in that kind of flow, being however old we were, 19, something like that. And so we said, well, fuck it, we'll record another demo. We already knew we were going to get signed, but we were like, let's just keep recording. And that's where those second four came from. And strangely, even though like we'll talk about shoegaze, I'm sure, a lot, but like the way that like shoegaze was a little bit more prevalent as our sound even before Delaware. Like Delaware even already starts us kind of pulling back from it a little bit.
You're already deviating to different styles for sure.
Correct. Right. What's interesting about these two demos or these two recording periods is that we actually kind of go deeper into shoegaze in the second one. If I had to describe it, and which is kind of interesting because then we start pulling back. So the beginning was those Mayfield things, the demos that people call it, and then the second one we go even a little bit further, and we really do. I mean,
especially with Damon, that's like it very much reminds me of Slow Dive in that the melancholic, like massive. Is it a Yamaha FX 500 you may be using there?
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
Effect. It sounds like a big rack effect.
Was not racks. It was there are basically two predominant things we used. We used the Midiverb 3, and we used it on everything. I mean, we used it on the drums, we used it on the vocals, we used it on the guitars. Right. That Midiverb 3, that was a rack, and that was paramount to. And I actually I recently got one of those. I have nothing from the original days. Well, that's not true. I have one thing, but I have one guitar from the original days, but the Midiverb rack, I ended up buying it on Reverb because I thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun to mess around with that again. But anyway, okay,
yeah, because they are cheap, aren't they? The old rack effects. I mean, I bought a Roland GP16 for my own band.
Right.
Which is called Breather, by the way. If you want to check us out,
I do, absolutely. I can't wait to check it out. Actually, yeah. Cool album, cool artwork. I love that. Who did the artwork?
Thank you. Just another bandmate called Josh.
It's beautiful work. I love that.
So a lung combined with a butterfly. Lungs. That's what we were going for.
So great. Very cool. Nicely done.
Got the 5 songs on there.
Oh, this is you. We know part 1, part 2. Very cool. Unknown. Yeah. This is clever. This is clever stuff. I like it.
Thank you.
Cool.
But anyway, so. Yeah, that's really cool information you gave me there, and definitely 4AD and Creation. I'm very much aware of them, despite my young age, and just a massive fan of Ivor Watts Russell and Alan McGee, like what they did.
Sure. Yeah, those guys are real vanguards. I mean, they're real true originals. Those guys.
Yeah.
I know that Ivo, he had a real thing for the Delaware album cover. He was obsessed with it. He wanted to know who the girl was. It was a whole big deal.
Yeah, because 4AD were very. They came up with this great quote that I like, where they said, "You see the art. No, you see the music and hear the artwork." And I thought that was a very interesting way to look at it, and that's cool. With Vaughan Oliver was the artist for them.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
Envelope 23.
That's right. And I always wondered if the bands had a choice, if they were just they kind of not that I'm sure it was a boon to have his genius, but I always wonder if they're like no, you can't use somebody else. We have this, we have our
interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm talking over, probably taking all your time away from your questions.
No, it's fine. I mean, I'm really enthralled by what you're saying. I'm finding out so much great stuff here. It's amazing.
Oh, hit me, Sam. Go ahead.
I think my listeners and viewers will really like this as well.
Cool.
So the next question is, can you tell us a brief track by track summary of Hardlight?
Oh wow. Well, if anyone would be able to do that, it'd be me, right? So, the title track, a few things going on there. It's a started with a dual riff that Steve came up with.
Really,
And
really like the delay sounds. Really
Yeah,
nice.
there's a little reverse delay on there, I think. That's always a hallmark in a lot of things we do. But um, the I like the idea of I'm a big fan of Altman films where uh, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Robert Altman, but he's a filmmaker who made he's gone now, but he's he made a lot of movies, and he originated this thing where everyone would be talking over each other, and which really before that in film you couldn't do because it's just the nature of recording it. You
Yeah.
can't. It just sounds like a mess. And the way he would do it is he would mic everybody very specifically, and uh, and then watching the film, he would pull in the edit, he would pull some voices out and bring some back, and and this is the way he would draw the focus. But the point is that it's things talking over one another,
Mm.
overlapping, and so I just like the idea in that there's a lot of vocal layers on that track, and not layers like just um, doubling, which we do a lot, but I'm speaking under in one, and then we're singing on another, and then I'm singing something else on another, and it's just like a lot of stuff happening over each
It
other.
reminds me of Zoom meetings when you've got too many people, too many squares.
Precisely right. Yeah, not unlike this, two people. Anyway, right. So, I so that's the but I love that track. It's a perfect, I think, opener. I think that
Mm.
that track telegraphs that you're in for something, that we're gonna be bringing the feels on this record, because I think it's a kind of an emotive track, really. Scapa Flow, um, again, I think that is. I remember when I heard that come together, I felt like this is Drop 19s. I mean, this is,
Mm.
whatever that means, because it's a mystery to me as much as it is, really anybody. We've done our body of work is not large, but it spans. It's pretty eclectic. So you don't always know what you're going to get with us. But I do think that there's something inherently like that just song. I just don't think that could be anybody else. It's just that is the band sounding like the band, you know.
That's
And
what I thought when I heard it the
yeah,
first time. I thought
yeah,
that's a direct hark back to like Delaware,
I think so.
Winona.
Yeah, I
It's,
I agree with you there. I think that has the whatever it is about Winona that resonates to this day about, with people, that Scapa Flow has that similar, I don't know, whatever it is. There's some kind of something about it has a sound. Maybe it's in the chords. It's probably in a combination of things, combination of just about everything, right? When they come together in a certain way, it's just
mm.
that's something unique to every band has a mix of elements that is going to make them distinctive, and that one has it in spades, I think. Gal, I think Gal is Steve and I call that the sleeper on the album, because I think that's um
Mm.
I love the way we crafted that one together. It's just got so many things going on. I remember
Yeah.
reading a review recently that said, there's so much going on. I don't know I don't know what the instruments are sometimes, and I consider that the highest form of flattery when there's stuff going on that people can't quite figure out. That's not that it's about fooling them or tricking them or hiding from them, but just that something is interesting enough to say, like, I don't even know what it is. That's that like this is flattering, and I think that's a sleeper. I mean, I think that's Steve's favorite track on the album. Um,
Definitely one of
uh,
mine as well. Yeah.
oh, thank you. Well, that means we're going to get to your least favorite track at some point, probably. But you don't always have to say that. But anyway, we won't. Well, we are going to go through everything. So Tarantula,
Mm.
I think is it's the most I think it's the fastest track on there, just in terms of beats per minute. It's also just it's an up song, um and it's a love song. I mean, that song, I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve. It's a song describing meeting my girlfriend. This is years ago now. It's not when I sing in it, like, it all started downtown. um I mean, it's literally, it's a like fairy tale, right? I'm, I'm, I'm setting it up as like, I may as well said once upon a time, you know?
Mm.
Um, and it's a love song, and it's not about being in a club now and checking out girls. I hope people don't perceive it. I hope people didn't perceive it as such.
Mm.
This is a story about 15 years ago, meeting my girlfriend, making eyes across a room, which is what we did, and so I and that song is fun to play. It's fun to play, and the name of it is Tarantula, because my girlfriend's name is Tara, and
Right.
her name. And I remember when I wrote it, I think I sent I shared the lyrics with her mother, and I said, "Oh, I just wrote this one, and guess who this is about?" She says, "Oh, I think it's about my daughter." I said, "Well, yeah, her name is in the title." She's like, "Yeah, I didn't catch that part." So she
Yeah,
didn't,
that's sweet,
realize.
dude.
Yeah. Um, okay, what's next? The Price Was High. The Price Was High is just a cool track. It originated with Steve, had a great bass line and a great guitar lead. And what I loved the bass line in particular because I'm a fan of a band called Spoon.
The bass line really stood out there.
Yeah, and I just thought that this is very Spoon-like, and so I was ready. It had me at the bass line. And when it came to the vocals, it was, and then I do other things on top. I mean, I put all the acoustic guitars that you added on top. It's just also lots of layers. A very cool kind of effect on that one, where you hear that ramping down, that you don't know what quite that is. That's kind of a cool flourish that we did on that one. But the vocals, to get to the vocals, I wrote the lyrics and I just and the melody, and I just thought, I'm not singing this one. I mean, not because I didn't like it, but I said this is for Paula to sing,
Mm.
and this has always been a real privilege for being in a band with always having a female vocalist. Is just you can kind of write on both sides of your brain,
Yeah.
and it's just a more it's
M-
it's
m-
a more.
More dynamic, maybe.
Yeah, it's just it's a freedom that and I think it's by design, I mean, I think I get bored of my voice, if I'm getting bored of it, then others are going to be. Um, so that's and I think Paula just really nails that song. And I think in retrospect, I just don't think that song exists without Paula. Because I wouldn't have sung it, and it's just I think really built for her, and she's really good in it. The next song is Rose with Smoke. I was um, very probably too serious about really sequencing this record as it was going, and it was driving everybody out of their minds because most bands don't do it that way. They record as many songs as they can, they choose the winners, then they decide how to arrange them. But I was doing this like, no, we need an instrumental here, 6 song, like, I mean, and they're like, Greg, can we just decide about the order later? I said, no. Now, this did change during this process, like, but it didn't change at the end. In other words, it was an evolution of deciding what's going to go where, and it wasn't something that we just decided at the end. And so we recorded, I think, maybe 3 instrumentals for this album, and this one originated with Steve, and it was just Steve and me up one night, and just me going, he's very good at well, he's good at everything, but he's also very good at like letting me say that now this now that, it's not me controlling or being the boss of him. It's just kind of me, I suppose, producing like what he has to offer. And we call each other our audience of one, because we're both trying to impress each other, and not that it's competition at all, but just that's the way we look at things. To me, we look at each other to know if something is good. And and on that song, we stayed up real late just doing it, and I love that. And then there's actually drums in that you can't always hear in all speakers. If you listen to it out of your phone, you can't hear drums. If you listen to it on cans, you can hear the drums. If you listen to it on good speakers, you can hear the drums. But I kind of like this in a way about it. It has different it's a different experience based on how you're listening. And the drums are really cool in that track. I imagine them a little bit almost tribal, like Native American type.
Yeah.
You know, they sound very they're very and the tone of them is really
Mm.
cool. And that's something that Pete came up with, and we tweaked it a little bit in the mix, but that was something that Pete came up with.
And the
A
guitar,
hitch.
I really like the guitar with you're doing the vibrato up and down technique.
Are we doing that on?
It's
Are we talking about? Are we talking about Rose with Smoke
Rose with
still?
Smoke. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk to Steve because he. I mean, I was in the room with him, but I'm kind of forgetting what there's at least like 20 tracks of guitar in that thing. So, yeah, but you're probably. I have no doubt that you're probably right that that's
It
one of the
sounds like you're
tracks.
doing the pitch bends.
We're definitely using we're definitely using
Glide guitar
yeah with
technique.
the glide guitar. They call it glide guitar right now, right? We just call it Kevin, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, that is true. Yeah, that's and this is interesting. You bring that up, the glide guitar, and this is obviously a convention of shoegaze that is like
Mm.
let's just we can all agree that it it's pervasive, right? It's ubiquitous and perhaps overused, in
Mm.
my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
But if you're a band like your band or my band, and you're known for shoegaze, that's what you do. Like you have to bring it sometimes, or not have to, but it's like it's an ingredient, right? It's an ingredient that you ought to use, but how you use it is going to be the distinction, right? Instead of it necessarily just by default, it doesn't always have to be that, right? Everything doesn't have to be that fucking tremolo bar, or whammy bar. I never liked the word whammy. Did you? I think it's a silly sounding
Not
name.
not really. No.
Whammy. I like tremolo bar, which is I think what they called them in the
Tremolo,
original.
yeah, tremolo bar. I hear most people calling it, but it's actually wrong because tremolo is the cutting of sound, right? It's on and off.
True. Yeah,
But
that's a whole tone effect.
vibrato would be more accurate because that's
Interesting.
changing the pitch.
It's very true. Yeah, and that's what you're doing. You're changing the pitch, and you're detuning.
Yeah.
You're de-pitching, whatever we have. Anyway, but I think it's important to like for us certainly. It's like we're going to use that somewhere on this record,
Yeah.
but it but every song isn't covered in it, and that's
Mm.
very that's something about us that we hedge everything. Maybe to some people's discern that we don't bring the shoegaze quite as vehemently, as people maybe want us to sometimes. But that's just it's like it's that's our choice. It's up
Yeah.
to that's I think it's our job to make those choices and not to just be taking requests.
It's
I
your
mean,
job to find your own sound.
right, and I think that's
to be unique.
right. Okay, so moving on. A Hitch.
Yeah, Hitch.
A Hitch, I think, was the first song that really came together. It's a very simple kind of construction, right? It's very A B A B. It's a very small. I think the chords are literally just it's one note. One string is different. As you can tell, I'm not very good at all this theory stuff, but it's the first one I came up with where I was like, this sounds like it could be something. And it sounded sort of Drop 19s to me. It did. That's the origin of it, and then of course it becomes this whole other thing with all the layers, and the band gets to it. I like that. It's a lot of stuff going on in that track. I just think it's cool sounding, and people ask me about the lyrics a lot. And I don't really explain songs. It's not because I'm trying to be a jerk. It's just like, I don't think it's pertinent. Any time I think any record that's good because someone explained what it means to you is like, is that a good record really? I mean, so these songs all are about things, when it comes to lyrics, but like, as far as I'm concerned, it's not my position to really be telling people like what it's supposed to be about.
No.
Frankly, it could be about anything you can prove it's about based on what the words are, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the artist's intention is ancillary at best. if you can say, and to this day, Shakespeare isn't around. I am not comparing myself to Shakespeare, but I'm just saying in terms of the medium of what writing and meanings by people are always trying to discern what his intentions were on things. And I just think it misses the point.
Yeah.
Um, the meaning behind things doesn't matter. What matters is what you can say about it based on what is, what's on the page, because Shakespeare isn't here to defend himself. So right. But the words are, and that's what lasts, that's what lasts. So anything that needs explaining. So, okay. So moving on to, Lookout. Lookout was, a track I wrote with COVID actually. And, my voice sounds like that. And I remember Steve really liking the sound of my voice on it, because unlike the original voice memo that I sent, and he liked it so much that we ended up just having it in the song. The song is actually a voice memo with other layers on top of it, but it has the original iPhone voice memo in there, and you can hear me actually press at the end of it. You can hear me press off record. So that one is about so it had to stay true to the original thing, which is obviously without a click, it's not in time. It's kind of me going in and out of time, and the band just had to kind of play to that, and that was interesting way to go about actually recording a song. It's a broad track. There's a lot. The idea with that one is that things would kind of come and go in it. We did bring the gays a little bit on that one.
Yeah,
and
definitely heard that.
Yeah, and it kind of but there's no one motif, that just kind of like no one hook to that song. We bring harmonics in at one point. We bring leads in at one point. We bring a different kind of harmonics in at some point. And like, it's just these things that kind of come and go. And I think it's the longest probably written one in terms of the most words lyrically. So it's got a lot of different, I'll describe what that one is without saying too much. I call that song like a discussion between me and my ghost. So this is me talking to my ghost, and I don't know when it is or what, or at least I'm not going to say that, but it's an argument, a discussion between Greg and Greg's ghost in that song. The next song is a Policeman Getting Lost, and that's a Clientele cover, one of my favorite bands, and a band that brought me back from not being interested in music at all to being a fan of music again. In the very late 90s, I just kind of tuned out completely, just got more into film and reading, and just for entertainment, and just stopped listening to music. And then the early aughts, the Clientele came along, and I thought, man, I said, this it's just this band. I could if just this band and the Beatles exist, that's what I could listen to for the rest of my life, like, so coming back after so long to make an album, it just made sense to want to. I was reminded, not to thank them so much, let's just say for them to have some kind of part in it, and I love that song. I did give Paula, I suggested a few covers for Paula to try, and she tried a broadcast cover, and which was really good, but it just didn't sound like Drop 19s to me. When what she put together, it sounded maybe better than Drop 19s. So we didn't put that song on there, and then this one really, I just thought it sits in our, it fits our mold in that it's that kind of in our eclectic style of having, you look at Delaware, and it's got tracks that just go from screaming distortion to to just literally live one person playing one string, literally the low E string, and on acoustic guitar. So the idea was here that it's brings that eclecticism.
My Aquarium reminds me of that.
Sure.
That
exactly.
was the one note on the E string, yeah.
Yeah, and that was written. My Aquarium was written. We'll get to Delaware, I guess, but My Aquarium was written in the studio like a few minutes before you're hearing it being played, and I actually made Paula. I made Paula play it while we sang it, and or asked her to. She's playing on that track, and But what I did kind of insist that she do is screw up one of like misfinger one of the last notes in it. You hear a little flub in the thing, and I suggest it's like I think she did it originally on one take, and I said, "Can you do that again? Can you mess up again like that?" Because it just had the feeling that you're hearing it being written. You know, it's just such a simple song that I thought it behooved it. Anyway, Policeman Getting Lost is more produced than that, but it is pretty much Paula. She arranged it, she put it together. And then Steve and I added a couple flourishes to it, and we wanted to hear the room in that song. You know, we wanted to almost Albini style. You know, like where you're kind of hearing the room. And then T is the second, you know, flat out love song on the album. It's you know, it was written like a lot of things. I mean, it had its place. I knew it was going to be the last song. And then, you know, I wanted to bring kind of everything that Drop19s has to bear on that song. So you have the full-on duet. We really bring the feels on that song. There's almost every texture of guitar imaginable on it. Yeah, I think it's one of the most beautiful songs I've written. So again, about Tara, couldn't call a second song Tara after the first one's called Tarantula, so I called it T. The outro of that song is interesting. Remember I was saying about the beginning about the song Hardlight, where I using vocals on all these different layers, and how you kind of bring some things to the fore, and you know, to the front, and some things pull things some back. Well, I wanted to do the same thing here
for the guitars. With
the guitars. So I think there's between 50 and 60 guitar tracks in that outro.
Yeah, because you had that like lead, it's like an octave run, isn't it? Where you're going
right.
That bit there, and it comes forward and then back, and
it does. And then it also varies, and it'll do a little variation of it as well and go like higher at some points. And when it does that, it's kind of like, it really brings I call it the sunrise moment. You know, it's like you feel like the sun is rising.
Yeah.
Certainly. And that's a bass 6, by the way. You could probably tell that, but you seem to have a good ear for that kind of stuff. But but what I like about the outro in the song is how it's the same kind of thing where there's all this stuff going on, but what we're doing is we're bringing in a sonic narrative where you pull some things back and you bring other things forward, and then you pull those back and bring other things forward. And what ends up happening is you end up finding a story, a story that you can follow, like with your, you know, like, okay, now we're supposed to pay attention to this, and now we're supposed to pay attention to this. Like we're pointing things out to follow it, and it creates some drama, you know, and you know, it was a lot of work. I mean, it's a long song, and we bring it in that outro, maybe it's somewhat obvious, right, to end with such bombast, I suppose, to end the album. But I mean, this is one thing that Steve and I agreed in the beginning, and I think Paul was in on this conversation, where we said, you know, we should not be afraid to be pretentious on this thing. If we live in fear of being pretentious, like this thing will never make it, because we want to bring something that's emotional and kind of moving. And if we're too shy about that or too understated, you know, we'll never get anywhere. So this is a case where we so I see that we're about to
Greg,
we'll do this again. No, it's fine.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm running out of time because I don't have the pro version.
That's fine. So do you want to set up another one quickly, and then we can go back and do this one more time? That sound good?
Yeah, you got time to do that?
I got time. I have time for
this?
You. Absolutely.
Thank you, D.
So
it means a lot.
I'll look wonderful. I'll see you in a second.
Yep. See you in a second. Thanks, Greg.
See ya.